Hey everyone, welcome to another race analysis video. This is round 3 of the Super Series and this is the Tailem Bend road race. 70 kilometres, 8 laps around the Tailem Bend Motorsport Park. This course is really interesting. It's mostly flat with a few little rises up and down, nothing that you'd call a hill. It was quite windy, there was a strong westerly wind, and so particularly in the last few corners it was important to be on the right side of the bunch. But the course is also really disorienting. You're out in the middle of nowhere, there's not many landmarks that you can really keep track of. There are 2 grandstands around the course, and a couple of times I sort of saw one of them and thought that we were coming into the finishing straight, when in actual fact it was the grandstand on the other side of the course. This is the second race we've raced today. The first race was a team time trial, which was 1 lap of the course at full bore. We did pretty well. We finished with 3 riders, myself included, and we came 3rd overall in that race. But we'd definitely gone deep, and I was hurting at the start of this race. I certainly wasn't fully recovered. The other issue I had is that I discovered a little bit into the first lap of this race that I'd accidentally brought 1 drink bottle of water only instead of 2 drink bottles of fuel mix. So I was probably running a bit low on fuel by the end of the race. So the cameras are turned on lap 5. Unfortunately, they only last about an hour, so I turned the cameras on sort of halfway through the race, so I'll get the finish. And we're in an interesting race situation. The first 3 laps of this course were super hard and fast, lots of attacks. The race was strung out for most of that. And then after the preem at the end of lap 2, it settled down a bit and then a break went up the road. And we were represented in it. It was a fairly big break, 7 riders, 2 from Villawood, 2 from Holdfast, 1 from Van Dam, 1 from us and 1 from Black Chrome. And our rider in it was Dermot, and he is one of our strongest riders. He's not much of a sprinter, but he is absolutely super strong on the flats. And with him in the break, along with a couple of the other riders, there was a really good chance it was going to go all the way. So 3 teams have missed the break. Norwood Red and Norwood Blue both missed it. And Team Everything Bikes, which is the team in green kits, has also missed it. So it was on those 3 teams to do all the chasing. And I'll spoil the race right now and let you know that they didn't make it. And there was about a 2-minute gap between the break and the first of us crossing the line. But what that meant was that the rest of us had a really easy race for the rest of the race. With such a big gap to the break, it was going to be impossible for 1 or 2 riders or even a small group to get across, so it was really a question of just chasing steadily. And that meant we could sit at the back and have a good chat. Alright, so jumping ahead to the last lap, we are inside of 8 kilometres to go, and you can see some attacks are starting to jump off the front. At this point I've got teammates up the front. You can see Jordan in the pink with the white helmet. He's doing the chasing at this point. And there's a couple of other teams with sprinters who are interested in the last few points. At this point I know that there's at least 6 people up the road, so as far as I'm aware there's about 4 places with points left to get. And in this series it's worth being 10th because you get 6 points, whereas 11th gets none. So just being in those last 3 slots, 3 or 4 slots, is absolutely worth it. Now this bit's really cool. If you look just up to the right, you can see Jordan. He's just finished chasing back a move. He's drifting back, and you can see he's looking over his shoulder and he's looking for me, and then he slots back in on my wheel, lets me know he's there, and then a few seconds later gets in front of me and starts pulling me back up to the front. So just here, he gets in front of me. And this is basically the way that we stay for the rest of this race. Jordan just navigates and keeps the 2 of us really close to the front without being on the front. And this gives me a really easy ride for the rest of this lap. And I learned a few things from Jordan about bunch positioning and how to navigate through and how to lead out a sprinter, or at least how to keep a sprinter in a good position. Now the other thing was he kept looking back and making sure I was there, and what that meant is that I knew that he was working for me, and as a result I was really keen to keep that wheel. So you can see there's someone who's trying to muscle onto Jordan's wheel, and I'm not having that. And I put in that little bit of extra effort just to make sure that I'm always holding Jordan's wheel. And this is really important because although I'm spending a tiny bit of energy to stay on the wheel, I'm also not losing any places in the bunch, which is energy I don't have to spend later. So here's another moment. I've let maybe half a wheel open up and someone tries to get in on Jordan's wheel, but I'm going to put in the extra effort and make sure that I keep that wheel. Unfortunately, Nick doesn't fight me too hard for it. Which is a good thing for me. Nick's a classy sprinter, and if he does get in front of me, there's absolutely no guarantees that I'm going to be able to get around him. So we're in the last few kilometres of the race. There's been a whole bunch of jostling for position, and then this attack goes with maybe 2.5 kilometres to go. Two guys get off the front, one from Villawood, one I think from Blackcomb, and it's too early for Jordan to do all the chasing by himself, and at this point we don't really have any other teammates up the road, or teammates up here with us near the front. So Holdfast is on the front, behind them are Villawood. They're not going to chase their own rider, and then this happens. Aidan Lampe, the magical white rhino, the machine. 2 weeks ago he finished a 4,000 kilometre solo unsupported mountain bike race from Brisbane to Uluru, and he just lights it up and pulls the absolute critical turn to bring those two guys back. There was no momentum in the bunch. We're too close to the end. None of the sprint trains are organised. It wasn't going to come back, but Lampe gets on the front and he absolutely sends it, gets the pace right up and brings those two riders back. This was his Hail Mary. This was everything he had. He sat up after this effort and finished 30 seconds behind the bunch. But my God, what a turn at the right time. And that brought us into the last couple of corners in an absolutely fantastic position. And the beauty of it was, when he attacked off the front, he forced some of Norwood Red's stronger lead-out riders like Frank Smith, forced them to do a bunch of the chasing of him, which meant that not only were we bringing the two attackers back, but we were wearing out some of the other lead-outs as well. And so now we're coming up to the last corner. The wind is a block headwind at this point. Jordan's kept me in a fantastic position, and then I think this is Henry Golding. He lights it up, leads it into the last corner with 400 metres to go. I'm doing 1,000 watts sitting in Jamison's wheel, just managing to hold on. I see the hoarding coming, and then I decide to launch my sprint. I go the wrong way. I pull off onto the windward side, and I think that probably meant that I was a bit further behind Jamison than I could have been. I don't know that I would have caught him even if I'd been on the right. He had a monster sprint, but that was just a perfect finish to the race as far as the team went. Looking at that last kilometre again, those two were gone for all money when Aidan went, and then when Frank started chasing Lampe, Jordan got right on that and brought me up to speed, saving my sprint legs. And once again, just fighting to keep his wheel kept me in a really good position for when we did go into the last corner. Now, remembering at this point that there's a westerly wind, so the wind's coming from our right shoulder going into this corner. Typically you want to be on the left-hand side going around this corner, but when it's going this fast, so long as you're on a wheel, is about as good as you're going to get. And the other good thing about this move by Lampe is it kept everything strung out coming into the last kilometre. So instead of having to fight against the swarm coming up from behind me on the washing machine, all I've got to do is sit on the wheel that I've picked and keep on it. Nathan Crick comes up. He's going to try to make a move. He was hoping for a good result in this race, and unfortunately his team missed the move, so I had to do a bunch of chasing. And then here's a critical moment. When Henry Golding decides that he's going to go, I see he's attacking, and I pick that wheel to take. I could have stayed on Jordan's wheel, but he's been doing a lot of work for the whole race, particularly for the last lap, so I figured that this was my ticket to the finish. And sure enough, Henry's attack just about goes the distance. He puts in an absolutely monster sprint, but it's a little bit too early, and it leaves plenty of time for Jamison and me to come around him. He just died a little bit at the end. I certainly cooked myself. I had nothing left at the end of this sprint, partly due to fueling, partly due to the other race this morning. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.